Here to react, House Judiciary Committee Chair and Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan. Congressman, great to have you here, top of the hour. This briefing's set to begin any moment now. Why is the White House not answering more questions? Why is Karine Jean-Pierre so reluctant to provide any transparency on this issue to the American people?
Yeah, I mean, nothing makes sense with this. I kind of go back to the fundamental question: why were they looking in the first place? Why did they send lawyers to search? I think Kim Strassel points out today in the Wall Street Journal that Joe Biden gets his lawyers; they get to go search the documents. Trump can't even have his present when the FBI is there. So again, this double standard, this lack of transparency, I think has been evident from the get-go. And really, when it comes to transparency, remember, on November 2nd, they find documents at the Penn Biden Center. December 18th, they find documents. His lawyers, again, find documents at his garage, at his home. Then it's reported on January 9th. And the White House, yeah, we can confirm that report, but they only confirmed it about November 2nd documents. They didn't confirm about December 18th, which they already knew about, let alone the big question. If you knew about all this back in November before the election, why didn't you let the American people know? So they say they've been transparent, but it's been anything but throughout this crazy process.
Congressman, there are so many questions that are involved in surrounding this. But I wanted to play, first of all, what President Biden said about this yesterday when he was on a trip as we await the White House briefing. He seemed to deflect right off the top, which isn't surprising. Listen to this.
You know, what quite frankly bugs me is that we have a serious problem here we're talking about. We're talking about what's going on, and the American people don't quite understand why you don't ask me questions about that. I think you're going to find there's nothing there. I have no regrets. I'm following what the lawyers have told me they want me to do. It's exactly what we're doing. There's no there there. Thank you.
So the president there in California is surveying the damage from all of these atmospheric rivers that have been rolling through there. Seem to suggest there are far more important things, Congressman, to talk about than the mishandling of classified documents. Also says he has no regrets. I mean, what happened to this idea of people know I take top secret documents seriously?
Right. Yeah, they're trying to deflect. I mean, I think that's obvious. But never forget also the money. I mean, China gives, supposedly been reported, China gives big money to the University of Pennsylvania. China gives big money, millions of dollars, to the Penn Biden Center. Then you have Joe Biden gets elected president. We find these documents, these classified documents at the Penn Biden Center. And what's he do? He names the head of University of Pennsylvania, makes her ambassador to Germany. And then Pennsylvania is asked about, the money from China. Oh, we don't know anything about the donation. None of that makes sense either. So, yeah, he's trying to deflect. But the American people, I think, understand that there's been a double standard. There's been lack of transparency. And they kind of want to know the answers to these kind of fundamental questions.
As far as the investigation, Congressman, into this matter, you are in this letter demanding all documents and communications regarding the appointment of her, the special counsel, obviously involved, and between the DOJ and the FBI related to these classified materials. Garland said this. He said that his appointment of her as special counsel is critical for, quote, an even-handed review of the matter. Based on your demands for all documents and communications regarding the appointment of her, are you lacking confidence that an even-handed review of this matter will actually take place?
I think the American people already understand there's not an even-handed application of the law. This is our whole concern with the Justice Department. And as I've said many times, we've had now over 24 whistleblowers come talk to us about a number of issues at the Justice Department that show a double standard. So, again, you can look at this specific example and say, why did President Trump get his home raided 91 days before the election, but they find out about classified documents at the Penn Biden Center a week before the election, and we know nothing about it? And then when the White House confirms a story in the press, they still don't give us all the information. So why were the Biden lawyers allowed to go pick up the documents when, again, President Trump's home was raided? I mean, there are just inconsistencies throughout. So that is our concern. And it's not just us, it's these whistleblowers who've talked to us about the broader problem of politics and the unequal application of the law at our current Justice Department.
One of the big questions that we have here, and I'm sure a lot of other people do, Congressman, is why was this thing kept under wraps for 70 days, particularly when the day after he became president of the United States, President Biden said this. Listen here.
The Vice President Harris and I and our entire administration will always be honest and transparent with you about both the good news and the bad.
So what happened to that pledge?
Well, again, the White House, yeah, they want to keep it from us. But I'm concerned about the Justice Department, too. I mean, the same Justice Department that handled these things in such a different way is the Justice Department that spied on President Trump's campaign, the Justice Department that lied to the FISA court, the Justice Department that paid a confidential human source even after they knew that source had lied to them, same Justice Department that paid Twitter $3.4 million to keep information from the American people, and the same Justice Department that we believe has retaliated against the very whistleblowers in the FBI who've come forward to talk to our office. So that's why I think you see this disparity. It's political, unfortunately, and this is why we're going to look at this and make sure all the facts get on the table, because I said this so many times, but it is so true. The first step in stopping this kind of behavior and getting back to equal application of the law in this country is to expose it and get all the facts on the table for the country to see.
Sunshine's the best disinfectant.
Yeah, Congressman, it was about this time yesterday that the Supreme Court revealed and said that it has so far been unable to identify the leaker of the draft opinion that overturned Roe v. Wade. There's really no precedent. This is the first time a leak like that has been happened before the ruling is actually issued and made public. Why are you surprised that we haven't been able to identify the leaker? I mean, you look what this investigation entailed: forensic analysis, examining the court's IT systems, conducting 126 formal interviews with 97 employees, all of whom denied disclosing the opinion. This is a 20-page report. It was released yesterday. This is going to continue, by the way. Are they going to find the leaker?
Well, we need to, because again, like I just said, the only way we're going to stop this in the future is to make sure you find out who did it and hold them accountable. Remember what happened, too. We had these protests at Supreme Court justices' home day after day, week after week, all designed to change to influence a decision in direct contradiction, in direct violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 1507, a statute we have on the books. And maybe most importantly, we had an assassination attempt of one of our sitting Supreme Court justices. That is frightening. So what we want to do is assist the marshal at the court, help her with her investigation so she can get to the... We don't really want to do the investigation, but we want to, if there's something we can do in Congress to better help the marshal get to the bottom of this and find out who did this, because we saw what happened over weeks and weeks and, frankly, months, not to mention what happened to pro-life churches and crisis pregnancy centers around the country after the leak of this draft opinion.
Congressman, the pathology typically of criminals and wrongdoers is you try something once, and if you get away with it, then you can try it again and maybe escalate and keep elevating the criminality or the wrongdoing involved here. So do you expect that now that this person believes, unless the investigation came really close to them and scared them off, the fact that this person has gotten away with this, what does this portend for the future in terms of other controversial decisions?
That's the fundamental issue, and it's why it's important that we find out who it is, make sure they're held accountable so it doesn't happen again. But you're exactly right. If you let this stuff go, same thing with the broader issue with the Justice Department. If you let the political nature of the Justice Department continue, it'll get worse, and more people will be targeted. Moms, the first whistleblower that came to us and talked to us about the 25 parents who were targeted by the FBI. The FBI showed up at their house simply because they went to a school board meeting to speak up for their kid. That is not supposed to happen in this country. And the first whistleblower was the one who come and told us this is the designation that's been put on their names as a result of the apparatus Merrick Garland put in place with his memorandum to U.S. attorneys. That's why we want to investigate this stuff.
Congressman, I want to turn our attention to some live pictures in Washington. We know there's been a lot of street closures there, obviously impacting traffic, I'm sure. Thankfully, you got to us on time. But there is in the nation's capital today, this March for Life. It is a rally that has been happening there. It's been held since January 1974. Obviously, this is a big moment this year after a lot of change in this country.
Yeah, it sure is. This is a day you celebrate life. Obviously, it's been 50 years since the Roe v. Wade decision, but this is the first time we've had this rally post-COVID and post the Dobbs decision. So a day when pro-life people from all over the country come here and recognize just how sacred, just how precious life is. So it's a great day, and we're having some of the Ohio folks, we're having them in out of the cold here in a little while for some pizza and refreshments. So we look forward to visiting with those folks who came from the Buckeye State.
And this is happening as Democrats insist that there needs to be federal legislation to codify Roe into law. Congressman, it's good to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming in today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.